Good morning. Hello, is this thing on? All right. Morning, professionals. How y'all doing today? All right, let's try the elementary school thing. 1, 2, 3. Eyes on me. All right. Good to see some of you out here this morning. Let's settle in. We're 2 minutes over, so we're gonna get right into it here. So first things first, we want to very much thank our sponsors for the room and the beverages and the breakfast this morning. So that's okay. Alex, we'll see. Okay, that could be Cindy. All right. Can you hear me now? All right. So again, thank you for the room and the breakfast and beverages to Motto, Tap, and American Hold'em Shield. Let's give them a quick hand. And Tina, come on up. Tell us what you got to say today.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's nice to see y'all here. Hey, I want to first just quickly introduce Erica DeGiorgi. She's joining our team. Say hello. She'll be active next week. And then next to her is Blanca Chapa. Stand up. Okay. So Blanca is considering joining our team. Does anybody think she should? Yeah, we're doing it. Okay, good. All right. Sorry, clicker. You always do the clicker for me. Thank you. So guys, I just want to talk about two products real quickly. The first one is the down payment assistance program. We gave everybody a flyer. If you don't have one, Erica has it. But you guys, this is a really important program to use. It's a little different than your typical down payment assistance program. And that's because it's a forgivable. You don't have to repay. You can actually refinance after 6 months. So it's an FHA loan. Your FICO has to be 620 or greater. You can see the DTI. It can be pretty high. 48.99 cannot be a little bit over. They will not approve you. Strong job history, no gaps. 3% concession is recommended. 6 is even better because it helps pay for their closing costs, right? And gifts are allowed. But here's the interesting part of this. So who can qualify for this? This does not have to be just a first-time home buyer. This can be somebody who works. It's awesome. Oh, wow. You guys heard Nate say that's awesome. So first responders, educators. Here's the other really cool part of this program is that they can be volunteers. So who in here has volunteered ever? Yep. See, everybody, right? Whether it's at your school, whether it's coaching, you know, what have you. So this program is really easy for someone to qualify for. So you can ask John or I or Erica for more information if you guys have questions on that. All right. And then the last thing that I have, guys, I can't reiterate enough how important the 2-1 buy down is. I mean, look how much money they are saving. In the first year, it's $507 a month in this scenario. I mean, that's huge. That's a huge reduction. So let me ask you, who in here thinks that rates will decrease in the next 2 years? Yeah, most everybody does, right? So this is a temporary fix. It lowers their payment. Overall, in the 2-year period, they're going to save over $9,900. So who doesn't want to do that? But this is a great way to talk to your borrowers about, hey, you have to qualify at the higher rate, but you can use this money to lower your payment for 2 years, and then we can refinance anytime within that 2 years. So if you need help talking to your borrowers, we're happy to do that for you. All right, that's it. Have a good day.
All right, Jody, come on up. Lovely to see you.
So I was told today by somebody in this room that I didn't need a microphone. I don't understand that. Whatever. No hard feelings here. I am here. So, Jody with Title Alliance. So I think I got everyone one of these flyers, and it talks about the importance of title insurance. And it also talks about errors in public records. So this is a great flyer to provide to your clients to explain to them the importance of an owner's title insurance policy. So there are so many different errors that could happen on a title policy, but this is just one of those. And it's talking about the legal description. Has anybody seen that where You see us re-record a deed prior to transferring the ownership because we have to correct the legal description. Happens all the time. One of the main ones is in regards to the HOA. They have the wrong HOA name. And so then we have to go and re-record the deed to correct the legal description. Then we record the deed to your owners, to the new buyers. So those are just some of the important things that we at the title company make sure that when we transfer ownership, your clients are never going to have to deal with that. They're never going to have to be concerned that their legal description is wrong. They're never going to have to be concerned about errors on title. Of course, it does happen. We're not, we are human, but that's one of the amazing things about title insurance and why it's so important to explain to your clients, as the sellers, of why they need to get owner's title insurance policy. But that is all. If anybody did not get a flyer, please let me know. Thank you.
Here you go.
Good morning. How's everybody doing today? Remember, I'm the Jake, but not the State Farm guy. All right. I'm with American Home Shield Home Warranty. I just want to go over something real quick that American Home Shield is offering to our members that have an American Home Shield home warranty with us. We are offering up to 50% off national retail if they want to replace their HVAC. American Home Shield has the buying power to buy these HVACs directly from the manufacturer. It's some simple steps that we offer. We offer a free home inspection of your current system. We have multiple units that are available right now. We have Bryant, Goodman, and Lennox. That's all that are available now. We are working with other manufacturers. The unit is shipped, and the shipping is included, and the installation is included as well. I have a flyer. I hand it out. There's a website on the bottom where you can go in and request a quote. They will go out there, give you a quote, and give you the pricing. Also, are offering financing as well through American Home Shield, so they haven't got to pay for this up front. It's a great program. I've seen up to 45% savings. All situations are different. Whether the air conditioner is on the ground or it's on the roof, it's going to help determine what the cost is. But you're going to see a 35% savings in energy. And with the older air conditioners that use the R22, it's a benefit to. So I'm going to leave these flyers on the back table. If anybody should have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you. That's correct. Yes, it's only for members only. Yes. Anybody that has an American Home Shield home warranty. Yeah, going forward too. Yes. Yeah. So if they put a home warranty on their property tomorrow, they're eligible for it. Okay. Questions, reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Jake. All right. So a couple quick things before we get to the commissioner here. As always, we want to recognize you guys for accomplishments and good things out there. One big one here, RE/MAX Lifetime Achievement Award winner. So that's 7 or more years with RE/MAX, $3 million or more in commission. And since we actually have this person in the room today, Oscar. Come on up here. And as you're walking, now think what is the secret to your success in 10 seconds or less?
A great team I have.
A great team. All right. That's good. That's a good one. Congrats, Oscar. All right. And another piece too. So Jan, so you guys may be, I hope, familiar with our momentum curriculum. Who's heard of that? Literally. Okay. There's an awful lot to it, but Jan has actually completed all of that, which is quite the feat. Sarah?
Yes, she has. She's completed theirs. What I think I lost count, like 16 classes, I think now. And just for the record, I was kind of on fire on Tuesday, so y'all should go back and watch the rewind of that. Just being, who was there, Roberta? You were there. Was I on fire? What? I was on fire. So hey, go watch the replay. So it was good stuff. And then join me next Tuesday for part 2. So Jan, come on up. We want to recognize her for completing all of the momentum classes.
Well done. All right. Okay, and two things coming up I want to mention. So this actually was just announced, I think Wednesday, Tuesday, just recently here, but a couple fantastic events coming up. So this is on October 18th. We're going to be doing some watch parties and some things like that as well. But however you can get to this content, check it out. So Viral Work Menu, we've had him in before. You guys know the systems and whatnot, fantastic stuff. But he's doing a part of this growth summit on building and growing a diamond team. So you've been thinking about starting a team, or you've got one going, you really want to take that up a few levels, fantastic information there. So October 18th, 10 to 11. And then on the agent side, Jared James. How many of you guys have seen him at R4 or other places? Okay, is Jared fun? Okay, does he have any good information typically? Okay, all right. So again, he's doing a very focused session as well on, really what you need to do to stand out and dominate in this market. You know him, right? If I'm doing a Jared, I will dominate you in this market. Okay, that's my quick impression. But behind the bravado is some really cool, great tactics that y'all can actually use. So check that out. It's a fantastic thing. More information coming. And then, hey, look, Jared James again. This was already on the calendar. So this is a live agent rally here locally. So it's coming up in November. But also, if you've got any guests you'd like to bring, whether those are team members, other agents, things like that. Again, fantastic information. Check that out. And that's all I've got. We're going to move right on over to the commissioner. Want to say something? No, just
So I'm going to introduce Commissioner Nicholson here really quick, and I'm actually going to read her bio to you guys because there's a lot here, and I think it's important to know her background and to understand that she comes from our world and she understands our world. So on February 17th, 23, just this year, Governor Hobbs appointed Susan as the Commissioner of the Arizona Department of Real Estate. For nearly 3 decades, Commissioner Nicholson was licensed and worked as a real estate professional, and up until the appointment was a designated broker and small business owner of a boutique brokerage here right in Phoenix. She also ran and operated a real estate school and was the school administrator and instructor. She was also the director at the National Association of Realtors, a director at the Arizona Association of Realtors, and just earlier this year, before she was appointed, was the president-elect of WeServe. So right here, not in this building here. In 2021, she graduated from the Women's Council of Realtors Leadership Institute, was the recipient of the Tyler Strout Vision Award from the Association of Realtors. She's a graduate of the Realtor Institute, certified by the National Association of Realtors as Pricing Strategy Advisor, a member of the Real Estate Council, endorsed by NAR, and the C2EX, which is that commitment to excellence that they have, certificate, and these designations, PMN, CRS, ABR, and CRS designations. She has a ton of experience she's bringing to us and to the Department of Real Estate. So without further ado, we will introduce the Commissioner. Oh, I want to mention one more thing. And really quick, if you have questions, please wait for us to get the mic to you so that they can hear you on the hybrid, on the folks on Zoom. Thanks, guys.
Good morning, RE/MAX. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being able to come out and chat with licensees. So thank you for the great introduction. 28 years. I've been in the real estate business 28 years. I started with Marriott International in their timeshare division. And I was a person that went into emerging markets. And so I was assigned to the Middle East, Africa, and Asia. I would go in and study regulatory requirements and cultural differences. And I would set up the entire sales operations and closing procedures, quality assurance, communication, tie it back into our corporate networks, come back home to the United States and also into the UK. And I would train our staff on the cultural diversity aspects of how to deal with our clients who come from a completely different purview than they do as to what is. There we go. So that's where I started. I spent 10 years there. Really, everyone thought I would be a lifer. I had this great job. I was in my early 20s, mid 20s, and early 30s, and it was like, yeah. And then I fell in love and I got married to an America West pilot. And then and that didn't actually change anything. I made him commute across the country. And then we had our first child, and that changed everything. And so I decided I was going to be a stay-at-home mom. Anybody ever done that? Respect. That's a hard gig. So I went from managing about a $20 million budget and staff all around the world and being an expat to, you know, Barney the dinosaur and the Wiggles. And I started to go a little crazy. So I called this lady, Marilyn, who is with Marriott Relocation. And she'd moved me around the world, it felt like a couple of times. And I said, hey, Marilyn, could I have the Marriott Relocation account in Arizona? And she said, done. If it could only be that easy, right? For everybody else in this business. From the Marriott Relocation, I built that out to Cox Communications. And with Cox Communications, I added in Vanguard. And that's how I started my real estate career. When the market crashed, I got master listing agreements with Washington Mutual. They're no longer here. Countrywide, also no longer here. And Chase, they're still here. And I sold a whole lot of REO properties during that period of time. In about 2017, I thought, this profession has been so good to me, but I'm pretty sure the easiest way to make money in real estate is to sell BS things to realtors. And I think I can help some people that are like coming up the ranks, right? Like the fastest way to make money in real estate is sell junk to realtors. And I was like, you know, you skin your knees so many times. How can I give back and say, no, don't spend your money there. That doesn't work. This is what works, because I'm willing to share. And so I found the Women's Council of Realtors. And it was really kind of like right here at Weimar at the time that I joined a network. And they were such a small little network that I joined the network. And all of a sudden I became like on their board of directors, all in the same like welcome meeting. You kind of left there going, wait, what did we just sign up for? How did that happen? And from there, the president at the time was this broker named Paige Gibbons. And Paige said, you have to go join a committee at your local association. And so at Weimar, I joined the Government Affairs Committee. And I met Liz Recchia. And if you guys haven't gone to anything that Liz Recchia has put on, it is well worth your time. You will come out a better practitioner. It will add to your value proposition when you're talking to consumers, because you're going to know some things that other people don't know. And I started serving there. I became the chair of that committee. I ran for board of directors. I made it onto the We Serve board of directors right at the merger. From there to first vice president, elected into the leadership. And when I became commissioner, I was president-elect of this association. So if you're We Serve members, sorry, I bailed on you. And came over to serve in a different capacity. So it's really hard to go from being a realtor, member, advocate to the regulator of the industry, when the industry for so long has liked to say, the Department of Real Estate doesn't care about you licensees. They're here only to protect the public. So I'm here to kind of like squish that down. That's not true. One of the biggest things that I said in my interview is the vast majority of the real estate licensees out there are some of the best human beings you will ever come into contact with. And every day they give to their community, they work really hard, and they don't want the corruption in the real estate industry any more than the state does. But it's just a tiny, tiny few that are the really, really naughty. And regulators need to step it up because you've been acting like it's not going on for too long. So I didn't let them talk much during my interview. Character flaw, but also the third question on the questionnaire when you apply for a cabinet position is, what is your political affiliation? Well, I've been a registered Republican since I was 18 years old. So I was like, they're not going to hire me. I probably won't even get an interview. So I kind of marched in there as a Realtor leader with things that I had to say to the top people in the state government about the real estate industry and how we could do a better job. So when I got a phone call from the governor a couple weeks later, I was really, really shocked because I kind of marched out of there like, sure did tell them. And then back to my regular life. And that was exactly what they wanted. They wanted someone that was going to reach out to the licensees and be fair. And one of the first things that I did was tell everybody at the Department of Real Estate, the licensees are our customers, and I expect us to provide excellent customer service. And we will never compromise protecting the public. And the good licensees don't want us to, because they know they get one reputation. You go out there and start hurting people, and that's going to impact your business. That's going to impact your bottom line. And so I don't see these things as being opposed to each other. So what I'm going to share with you today is what's called our omnibus bill and our budget issues, because it's only a few months away before we're in January and a new legislative session starts. And whether you believe it or not, the representatives and the senators actually do care about getting letters from their constituents, because if y'all are angry, it fiddles down to me, and then I get like nasty grams from the senators and the representatives because you're constituents. And so I thought, you know what, it's really important that I not only share this with the state association, which is typically what would happen, I should share this out to all the voters that are out there, all the stakeholders, because truly, this impacts you more than it impacts, Scott Drucker and Matt Conarelli. It impacts you guys. Here is what you can expect to see. We have some budget issues. We need an IT fund. We need money for IT. I'll go into that in more detail in a moment. We have a legislative proposal. It's called an omnibus bill, and it's going to cover a lot of different little things in Title 32, Chapter 20, that will fix things that are wrong that don't work for business. And we will be going into rulemaking in 2025. So they like to call it commissioner's rules inside all of the classes and everything. I think that's ridiculous. They're not my rules. It is the Arizona Administrative Code. Arizona Administrative Code is designed where the statute says, and the commissioner shall decide and give more detail as to what this means, so that licensees understand a broad term as far as specifics in their transaction. Arizona Administrative Code has to tie to statutes. Statutes have changed quite a bit since 2006, but the code has not. And so I have a heavy lift task in 2025 or 2024 to start going through the Arizona Administrative Code and see if it actually ties back to law. Does it tie back to the statutes? And does it make sense? Because there are a lot of things there that as a small business owner, well, one of them was just like the forms that we used at the Department of Real Estate to put in a CE class. Any educators in here? To put in a CE class, it was like a 26-page form, and it was confusing as all heck, and you only needed like page 3 and page 17, but go figure. And we eliminated it. We took 26 pages, we pared it down to 2 pages plus an addendum for specifically what you're trying to do. And we're trying to do the whole work smarter, not harder, and don't make it difficult for business owners out there to be profitable. We don't want you tied up doing regulatory nonsense that doesn't tie back to statute or serve a purpose to protect the public. So rulemaking. All right, so the budget issues. We're asking for $831,000 from employees. The legislature goes through every single agency in the state, and they do this thing called a sunset audit. And every agency has to defend their existence to the lawmakers to say, no, the people really do need us to exist because we do this, this, and this. And they look at every single process and procedure that you have, and They give you suggestions, but they're kind of more like, you will do this. It's not like, we think you might want to consider. It's like, and you're going to do this if we're going to keep your agency alive. The maximum time that an agency can be renewed is 8 years. The Department of Real Estate went through its sunset audit and it closed last year. We were renewed for another 8 years. And so I don't have to worry about the sunset audit. But inside that sunset audit, they said, in order to do the work that the Department of Real Estate is charged with doing, given how many licensees are out there, you need 36 employees. Gosh, I mean, going from being a small business owner and having control of my books to like the state bookkeeping system, amazing. And I sort of looked at this report and I thought, well, I would love 36 full-time employees. I have 24 right now. 36 sounds delightful. I don't have the money for 36. I have a very sharp pencil. And when I need to hire an auditor, compliance officer, a licensing individual, whatever it is at the Department of Real Estate, I say, this is the description of what I need this new state employee to do. And then it goes to the Office of Administration and they say, oh, okay, we're going to classify it this way. And you must pay a compensation of between here and here. And so class and comps isn't done by the Department of Real Estate. I'm told if this is what you need someone to do, this is what you have to pay them. And then we recruit and we get somebody into that position. So we've run out of money at 24 full-time employees. And I'm telling you, I even looked at like copy machine leases to see if there was money that could be saved. But like, there's not. Because Judy Lowe and Louis DeTore before me ran a really, really tight ship. And so we've hired as many people as we can, but we have 2 auditors, we have 2 compliance officers, we have 3 investigators. And right now, if we were to say you got picked for your audit, you could expect that to last 6 to 8 months. And that is not fair to a business who wants to be held in audit for 6 to 8 months. Only because I haven't gotten back to you in my pile of all the other cases that I have. Same thing for complaints. We have a duty to investigate every written complaint that comes in. I have the ability to investigate anything that I think needs investigating. So it doesn't have to be in writing for me to open an investigation. And we don't have enough investigators to do a good job. So what was happening was complaint was received, response came in, and the investigators were like, truth, here, this is the truth. And I reviewed cases and I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Why is there not this in the file and this in the file? And why didn't you look at this? And maybe you made the wrong decision, Department of Real Estate. And so we started training our investigators on how to go out and say, just because someone files a complaint on a licensee really doesn't mean that it wasn't the other licensee that, who's filing the complaint that did the dirty. And so now the Department of Real Estate is looking at the entire transaction to see where the harm really came. So if there was ever a time where you want your brokers to figure it out and make nice with everybody, it is now. Because just because you file the complaint doesn't mean that I'm not going to look at your work also. And some brokers don't like that, by the way, but I don't care. So there's that. So we need more employees. We've asked for more employees. Basically right now, if we have somebody out on family medical leave of absence, we have great benefits at the state, or administrative leave, these divisions are left with just 1 employee holding on. If that person calls in sick, everything stops. And it's just not a way to run a business. And so we need more people. We're asking for more people. And that's an ongoing funding issue. Then there's the IT issue. The software that runs the Department of Real Estate is called custom coded software. It was written 28 years ago in C# by a state employee named Kevin Good. He's a very good man. But it was written 27 years ago, and he's a 28-year state employee. So we have this thing called the Arizona State Retirement System, and when you reach 30 years, you become fully vested. And that state retirement system will pay you out 80% of the average of your last high 3 years of earning. And right now, he has to pay in 12.5% into the state retirement system. So that brings you up to 92. And if he retires, he can start drawing Social Security. And if you can do basic arithmetic, you're going to realize that it makes no sense. As a matter of fact, he's going to experience financial harm if he stays with us beyond, well, he could probably make more money now, but we're not telling him that because he's still here. And so he's been great. And he has said, I'm going to retire. My wife is telling me I'm going to retire. So while we know we could probably talk Kevin into staying, we can't talk his wife into letting Kevin stay. So there's that. Which then I said, okay, Kevin's going to retire. He's the only person that understands how Realm, that's what the software is called, how Realm is coded and how Realm works. What is our plan for Kevin's retirement? So it goes up to the third floor again, Arizona Department of Administration. The plan that is submitted is that we revert to paper processing. Yeah, that was my reaction. I was like, no, there has to be something that's been submitted since paper, that we go to paper processing, right? No, because that's the thing with custom code. It's almost like that person's language. It's in C#, but I guess there's many ways to get to certain things, and we have a very intricate web of coding out there from the last, almost 30 years of constant improvement. So we need to go to commercially supported software. And the ROC, Registrar of Contractors, was the last agency that did this, and it cost them about $4 million. So if all of you are wondering if real estate's the highest, banking thing, you could sell software, apparently. It's quite expensive. And in order for an agency to spend that kind of money, we have to bring in a business analyst that says, you're being good fiduciaries of the taxpayers' dollars. And so we sent out a request for proposals and a scope of work for that business analyst. And that came back at $400,000 to have an IT expert that understands the code and understands what's out there and understands how to transition us from A to B and can put that whole plan together with deadlines and deliverables and how much it's all going to cost. So that brings us to how the Department of Real Estate is run on a budget. We are the only state agency that runs on this thing called 95-110. Everybody else runs on 90-10, but the Department of Real Estate is on 95-110. Because at one point in time, that was the best thing that your political action committee could lobby for because it kept your licensing fees low. But it's kind of like a short-sighted plan because what it didn't do was allow the state agency to say, okay, I'm not going to spend this amount of my allocated budget because I know I have this huge expenditure coming in the future and I need to save money. So every June 30th, any money that I have not spent from the budget of $3.2 million that the Department of Real Estate gets swept back into the general fund. And that's what happened to us. The business analysts came in, we were sitting on $600,000. The state will not prepay. You have to deliver the final product before the state is going to pay you. And we got the scope of work about 3 months before the end of the fiscal year. And it's a 9-month project, which brings us into another fiscal year where we don't have that $600,000 just sitting there. Other agencies have 10% of what they saved pushed back into the general fund, and they get to keep 90% of their savings. And then you have to say exactly line item what that funding is allocated for. And so they are able to say, we're saving money for this IT improvement that we need. That's where it's going. And so we would very much like to be on a different budget system, but we are what we are. And that would take, an act of the legislature to get us there. And we don't really have time because Kevin's getting ready to retire and the backup plan is paper. I don't think any of you want to come visit me at 100 North 15th Avenue to renew your license or, drive down or mail it in and go back to 90-day processing for things to get done because we're on paper. I don't want it. I certainly don't want it. And so we need to get to commercial software. So how are we going to do that? So there's another division at the state called the Office of Strategic Planning and Budget. And we went and we said, here's our issue. We need money. We need $400,000 for the business analyst. And then 9 months later, we need $3 to $4 million to get us on commercially supported software so that we don't crash. And they said, yeah, you do. But can you find someplace other than the state general fund to get that $3 to $4 million? Like, we think we can help you with the 400,000 one-time expenditure, but that 3 to 4 million, considering that your whole budget is 3.2 million, we don't really like the idea of giving real estate $6 to $7 million so that you can do that. And remember, I'm on a 1-year sweep. And so if I can't get that commercially supported software online within 1 fiscal year, I lose all the funding because that's how we're set up. So I'm kind of set up to fail with regard to this. So what was discussed and what is being proposed is an IT fund. And what that will look like is when you go to renew your license, you're going to get hit with a $25 fee. And that's going to happen for 2 years. And that's going to be $50 over 4 years that licensees are going to contribute. And that's going to be the money to buy the commercially supported software. And then after that, it would drop down. It has to go below 15. The anticipation would be more like $5 or $0 because it's based on need, and it's very, very specific that it can only be used to keep the IT software going. You can't use it for employee anything. You can't use it for anything other than the software that keeps the department running. It is my understanding that your PAC will oppose that. They would love to see us get it from the general fund. That's every taxpayer in Arizona contributing toward the software at the Department of Real Estate, right? The Office of Strategic Planning and Budget is saying, we're not going to approve that. And so y'all got to figure it out. I mean, I like you, but I don't want you to have to come down and renew your license in person or wait 90 days or mail it in. And I'm going to do the very best I can with that. And we certainly have this like young guy, Jason, who's shadowing Kevin and trying to learn this code. And Jason is like, oh my gosh, it is so confusing in there. And even like the most minor little improvements don't click and make sense. And so, yeah, there's that. So when you see that we're asking for an IT fund, please understand, I'm not doing a money grab. I'm just trying to keep the department running and get us into a position where you're never facing this again. Okay, that's that. Let's talk about the omnibus. So through the years, legislation happens, and it's just really kind of confusing. There's online learning and there's distance learning, but online learning and distance learning are the same thing, and live learning is the same thing. And so we're just in the omnibus clearing up the definitions because it confuses the heck out of our licensees and our educators, and we feel like we could do a better job with that. I really don't think anybody's going to object to this one. You guys heard of the metaverse? It's not real estate. There are some people out there, the things I see, want to write a book, hit me with a public record request. Advertising the sale of houses inside the metaverse as real property. And so we're just going to kind of make it really clear that, like, if you can't walk through the front door of that with your biological feet, that doesn't count. That's not licensed activity, so that we don't get into trouble in the future. Expanding representation. I have an advisory board. The governor appoints these positions. I have a salesperson Maricopa County position open right now. You would apply to boards and commissions. And we get together on a quarterly basis. And that's my opportunity to say, this is what's happening in the Department of Real Estate. And also say what's happening in your world that I need to be aware of. Right now, it's really, really, really heavily one area or heavier in areas that I don't really have a lot of issues with. And so I'm trying to diversify it out a little bit so that I'm hearing from all sectors what's going on to know what I need to do to be a good representative for you guys. Fingerprint clearance card. Oh, I don't like the statute, but I don't get to pick and choose statutes. So if something is statutory, I have to enforce it. If it's a rule, the commissioner's rules, if it's Arizona Administrative Code, then I get to pick or choose whether or not I enforce it. But I don't get to pick or choose with statutes. So there's a statute out there that says, if you lose your fingerprint clearance card, I give you notice that the Department of Public Safety told me you lost your fingerprint clearance card, and you have 10 days to give me back an active fingerprint clearance card. Sounds good, right? But it's the state, and things don't happen quickly. And so what could trigger you to lose your fingerprint clearance card? Getting drunk at a concert and a little bit too rowdy. Misdemeanor DUI. A whole bunch of other things that I see come across my desk. And since this law was written, another law was written that said, if someone's applying for a professional license and they've done these little misdemeanor crimes, you cannot consider that as to whether that doesn't apply. So if it doesn't apply according to statute that I can't give you a license, why should it apply that I have to suspend your license? Doesn't make sense to me. There's two different standards there. And it seems what happens to you guys is you get this letter saying, hey, you've lost your fingerprint clearance card. You got 10 days to get me an active fingerprint clearance card. So you drop everything. You go to the Department of Public Safety. You say, I need a good cause exemption. I'll pay whatever it takes. Expedite this. And the Department of Public Safety says that'll be 45 to 60 days on an expedited basis. So what happens to you when I suspend your license for 30 days? How much money is that going to cost a practicing licensee? And how unfair is that? So what do I want the law to say? I want it to say that I may suspend your license. I'd like to have some discretion in this. And I want it to say that you start the process with the Department of Public Safety. And you tell us, like, I've submitted my request and paid my money to have an expedited good cause exemption. And then we follow it through. So why do I want the option? Right after I started, the department was just wrapping a case where a licensee was a human trafficker. How's that make you feel? Yeah. I'm not going to wait for due process to finish when someone's human trafficking. No more access to people's properties, and we'll wait for due process to happen. But there's a lot of other things where it's like, I don't feel there's a threat to public safety and you can keep earning your livelihood while due process happens. So with the human trafficker, I want you to know it took 8 days for us to get the information we needed to notify the listing agents out there that a human trafficker had been in their listing for 30-minute showings. What could you do having popped open a lockbox and booked a 30-minute showing? Could you run to Home Depot or Walmart and make a key? Yeah, you could. And I said, that is completely unacceptable to me. And they said, I know it was unacceptable to us, but due process takes so long and we had to issue a subpoena to get that information. And I said, no, there's got to be a better way. And so I met with Arizona Realtors and I said, I want to get access to the electronic platforms where, and the information. So if this ever happens again, I can say, this has happened and we're going in and we're pulling information. We're going to immediately start notifying listing agents and agents who have closed, the buyer brokers, and say, this person accessed this house. Please make sure the locks are changed and be aware. And they were like, no, you can't have access to that. And I said, I get it. But I also get that, like, and there's a super dangerous person out there. And so how do we meet in the middle? And we came up with the idea of creating a memorandum of understanding that board of directors could approve to say, in the instance where there's a felony involved and it impacts public safety and the safety of licensees and property and all of that, then these boards and MLSs will work off of an electronic subpoena. And it gives us a point of contact to call and say, okay, we're raising our red flag and we're telling you, we're not using the normal process. We're using the expedited process. This is the type of information we need. What do you need on our subpoena? We type a subpoena, we hit email, that person starts giving us information. Are you guys ARMLS members? Matt signed it. Matt Consalvo signed the document. So you're all safer. Because if this happens in the ARMLS area, there's a person we can call and we're going to get immediate information. And I can tell you right now, I'm going to stop everybody at the Department of Real Estate. All of us are going to be on the phones and we're going to notify everybody as quickly as possible. This isn't going to be assigned to one person. This is like, stop everything. There's nothing more important on our desk right now. And Northern Arizona Association of Realtors has signed it, and the rest of the state has not. Because they're scared of government, you know, they have all these, I don't know, I honestly don't know. I just know that it's going to take me a lot longer in those other areas to notify them that there's a scary person out there and protect licensees and the public and the properties. So I'm glad you guys are selling where you're selling. Timeshare. Anybody in here ever sold timeshare? No? Okay, well, it's nothing like selling residential real estate. And there's a whole body of statutes inside the law book that govern timeshare. There's one question on the test. How many days of a right of rescission do you have if you buy timeshare? That's the only thing we teach. It's the only question on the test. So the timeshare industry, they're represented by a group called ARDA, the American Resort Developers Association, and they came to the department and they said, would you please consider creating a timeshare specific license? Because we like to transfer people from Utah and Hawaii and Florida to Arizona, and they have to take this ridiculous test. Don't even get me started. I'll talk about that next. This ridiculous test that only has one question that has anything to do with us. And it's hard for them to pass because that's not the type of real estate they practice. And I said, that makes a whole lot of sense. And so this statute will allow me to create a timeshare specific test where they actually have to learn Arizona's laws about timeshare, more than just one of them. And they don't have to learn all the laws about residential real estate, and they'll only be licensed to sell timeshare. So that's coming down the pike. Entity licenses. I don't like this statute either. We have a statute out there that if you owned your own brokerage and something happened to you and you passed away, your spouse could like step in, but the law allows your spouse 90 days to wind down your business on a temporary broker license. It doesn't allow your spouse the opportunity to just hire a new designated broker and continue to receive that income. So we had a widow who was in this situation, and you know, we did a song and dance that we were like, well, but I shouldn't have to do the whole technically dance to do the right thing. So let's just fix the statute and create that opportunity out there for those people that have built up a business and their spouse doesn't want to completely lose that income and wants to hire a designated broker. Property management. Do you guys do property management? Couple of you. So this is one of those areas where I think the department falls flat on its face because we don't offer the right education to enable you to be successful in the event that we audit you. And our statutes currently say, yeah, GAAP, that's what you have to do. But then you read the GAAP rules in accounting and it's like, well, what does that exactly mean? So we'd like to really clarify that. And we will be developing curriculum that will be 6 hours, that will be very property management specific, and we'll be providing it for free to every school out there to say, hey, please start teaching this out there. And we're going to require that if you do property management, you take those because you shouldn't be put out of business because you don't know what the department is going to ask you for. And we talked about not requiring it as continuing education. But then we talked about how busy licensees are and how many of them would actually take the education just proactively. And we felt the number would be too low given some of the property managers that we interact with. So we're going to make it mandatory and get that education out there so that you can be successful. Trust accounts, three-way reconciliation, auditing and investigations have gone through a complete overhaul for accountability and timeline. So we're not going to automatically give you an extension. You got to have a good reason for needing an extension, like I'm waiting for my E&O attorney to get back to me. That's a good reason. We'll give you an extension. What is not a good reason is I'm too busy right now to deal with you, Department of Real Estate. Could you give me 30 days? No, you need to find a way to get unbusy. There's going to be worksheets, and rather than us demanding reports from you, we're going to say, we need this number that comes from this. We need this number that comes from this, and attach whatever it is that you have as supporting documentation. So in every way possible, we're trying to simplify property management, trust fund accounting reconciliations so that you can be successful, because right now you're somewhat set up to fail. Rulemaking. So we talked about our business analysts that we need on our scope of work, and we anticipate we'll have that completed by the end of fiscal year 25, because that is how the state works. Statutes will be clarified and updated. Our 5-year rule review begins on February of 24, and it's due on the 25th, and they haven't been updated since 2006. So it's time. And with that, I'll answer any questions you guys have. There are questions. I'm like, there are no questions.
Ah, there we are. What is the number you're seeing come across in complaints to the department?
Advertising. Yeah, and so
please talk about that?
licensees like to turn in other licensees for advertising violations. Y'all like, I don't even have to have an out there enforcement staff because y'all self-police that. And so we see a lot of advertising violations. So the way that an advertising violation works is we get the complaint in, and if it's a first-time offender, it's going to be a letter of concern. And that's not disciplinary action. As a matter of fact, in that omnibus bill, I'm changing the definition of a letter of concern to specifically say this is a non-disciplinary action, because I don't want people to be able to be like scarlet letter, right? I want to be able to give you a warning, just like you can get for, speeding a little bit. And so that's the first step. It's a warning to say, hey, you're not doing this right, and we expect you to fix it and submit something to the department showing us that you're going to start doing it the right way. We had a licensee that was like, say you're going to cost small businesses more money. And I was like, yeah, if you're breaking the law. Yeah. So there's that. But then if you don't stop doing it and you get turned in again, then you're going to progress up to what's called an accelerated settlement statement. We're going to fine you and maybe make you take some classes on advertising so that you can learn what you're doing wrong, because giving you a warning didn't work. If you do it again, yeah, it happens, we're going to put you on a consent order. And that consent order is going to put you on a provisional license. Most likely, you're going to have to start turning in your advertising submissions to us. We're going to watch you pretty closely, going to make you do CE, and we're going to hit you with a higher monetary fine. If you do it again, I'm going to suspend your license. It's like timeout, right? Mom's putting you in timeout. Go sit in the corner, think about what you've done. And it's only happened once since I've been commissioner, but it has happened. And if you do it again, that's when I'm going to revoke your license and say, I can't regulate you. You don't care about what the law says. And somebody said that I say that too lightheartedly when I come out and speak, that I'm going to revoke someone's license. I'm like, because I gave them a warning and then a small fine and then education. And then we tried watching them and then we gave them a timeout. I don't feel bad for you when you reach this. I don't. I lose zero sleep. I'm like, revoke it. We're done. I'm done playing with that licensee. So, but advertising is the biggest thing that I see. Deed fraud. Anybody here been contacted by somebody pretending to be a seller? It's out there. We get it every day. So when I first started, I want you to know that 2 brokers contacted me and said, we've got a live one. The criminal doesn't know that we're on to him. And I was like, ooh, let's go get the bad guy. Scum out there, stealing people's property. And so then I contacted the Attorney General's office and they're like, yeah, we can't do anything until after the wire transfer is complete. And I was like, what? Yeah. I was like, what? So what do I do with this? And they're like, report it to the FBI Internet Crimes Division. And I was like, where it goes to die? What kind of, like, what? Or what? So I started this campaign because I am that person. And I got an audience in front of the Arizona Prosecuting Attorneys Council. So like the prosecutor from all the cities and all the counties, they come together as this like council. And I got in front of them on deed fraud. And I basically said, at what point can I hand this to you so a police officer can go get the bad guy? Like, who do I contact? And then there was a city, I won't name names because that's not nice. There was a city that was like, we have a great fraud. I was like, 2 years, buddy. Your city told us that you're so understaffed that your fraud people are out on beat patrol. And if I sent this to you, I could expect to wait 2 years. The criminal is long gone by then. And he was like, who told you that? And I was like, I'll email you. So we had that. But there's a new head of the criminal at the Attorney General's office. And he was there. And he was like, well, we can do something about it. And I was like, actually, what your office said was blah, 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 in front of all of his peers. It was great. And he said, I will be in touch with you. So this is what I can say. If you guys suss out that you're working with a criminal and the criminal doesn't know yet, if you get that to me, the criminal division of the Attorney General's office is very interested in those cases now, and I can forward them over. We have a meeting coming up. Yeah, I'm cheeky. And so we have a meeting coming up, and I'm very much going to push for how can brokerages report it directly to you? Like, you shouldn't have to go through the Department of Real Estate. Let's just get it to the people with guns and badges and the authority to go arrest people. And when I have that information, every licensee and every broker will get a thing. We'll broadcast it as big as we can. But every time that I've encountered something like that, I mean, can you imagine how awful you would feel if you helped a criminal steal somebody's property? And plus it costs you money to do it. And then the title company is going to say, you have to give us back your compensation when they find out, and they'll take you to court for it. There's a couple of that, which I don't really understand, because they're willing to like work out an agreement knowing that you already spent your commission check. But I was like, I'm no lawyer, but if I have a friend who says, hey, Susan, can you take me to the bank? I need to go get some cash. And I say, yeah, sure, I'll drive you. And they say, I'll give you some gas money. I'm like, cool, because it's $5 a gallon. And I drive them to the bank, and I'm a state employee now. I don't make what I used to, and so I drive them to the bank, and they come out of the bank and they go, here's $50 for gas. And I go, ooh, aren't you a big spender? Thank you. Especially since I drive an electric car. And, and I start driving away, and then I see the police lights behind me, and I pull over, and I find out that my friend went in and robbed the bank. And they gave me $50 of that. Do I get to tell the police officer, like, no, I get to keep my 50. I didn't know she was going to go rob the bank. Like, does it work that way? And I was like, I kind of see like compensation the same way. Like, you didn't know you were participating in a crime, but you made money off of a crime. I don't think you get to keep it, but we'll see how it goes through the due process, because, there are lawyers and judges and everything else, but they will come back and say they want the money back. And so there's another piece of legislation that the Department of Real Estate worked on, because I took every deed fraud case that I could get my hands onto and I took it apart. And I said, how are the criminals utilizing systems in the state and in the counties and in the cities to be able to commit these crimes? And then we put together this huge piece of legislation that changes things from notarization to what real estate licensees do. So if you list a property, it's going to ask that you look at a form of ID and record like driver's license, issue date, expiration date, not personally identifying information, because I don't want to make small businesses have to invest money in IT security for storage of records, right? So keeping all of that in mind, because girl, I used to own a business. I wouldn't want to have to pay for that kind of software and security. And so keeping it bland enough to make sure that it's being done, but give that first level of deterrent, because the fake IDs actually don't have pictures of the criminals. So if you get them on a Zoom call with you and they hold up their ID and the picture doesn't look anything like the ID, well, that's the first, it's a deterrent. Making insurance companies work with listing agents to release the information to say, yes, I issued that insurance claims history letter. So a listing agent would have one additional step. I got my insurance claims history letter in. I did not call the phone number on the letter. I called a phone number, for Liberty Mutual or whatever. But what we found was the criminals that have successfully stolen houses, they didn't know who the insurance provider was. So they gave a letter from like Liberty Mutual when it was Allstate that was the insurance provider. And so had the real estate licensee been able to go directly and get that information, you wouldn't have had to buy the marketing photos. And you would have known you were dealing with a criminal and you could turn them into the AG. There's a whole bunch of other things that go into how like out-of-state notarization would happen, capturing a fingerprint for in-state notarization, showing identification, county recorder being suspicious of things like quitclaim deeds. These criminals are creative and the crime is sophisticated and they're evolving. So we do have a body of legislation coming forward on that as well, because it's not good for anybody. Nobody wants, these properties are mostly free and clear, but not always, but mostly free and clear. Can you imagine paying off your piece of real estate and then having some criminals steal it? And the court costs of some people that have bought it have been in excess of $20,000. Like, what does that do to you? And then there's laws that protect the buyer who didn't know what they bought was stolen and everything else. I mean, it's just a hot mess, and we need better laws. So we'll be proposing that too.
This has been like a fire hose of information. Can you go back and touch on the insurance history one more time? Because so is there a database we can go to? Like you kind of lost me there for a second.
So right now, if you were to call USAA and say, hey, USAA, can you validate that this is really a letter that you issued? They would say, no, because you're not my customer. So we want to change the law to say, if a licensed real estate agent contacts you to verify the authenticity of an insurance claims history letter, you will release that information. And so when you receive a letter, you would have the ability. So obviously we'd be asking brokers to change their policy manuals, and we would make it law, right? That there's this verification, that there's some sort of, yep, I verified it. That truly was the issuing company. It's, it would probably be like 3 days after delivery, 5 days after delivery, because we want the criminals to be caught early. So if a seller gives it to you, we know it could be Friday, it could be late on a Friday. You'll need Saturday, Sunday. What if Monday is a holiday? Is it going to be business days? I mean, right now it's just the policy proposal, and then there's policy advisors and legislative liaisons, and then it gets to representatives, and it's going to get beaten the heck. And by the time it poops out the other end, it's not going to look anything like what we sent up. But that's how our system works. So. Oh, the time frame. Legislative session starts January 1st. It ends when they finish their work, which wasn't until August this year, but usually it's May-ish. And then usually laws start to take effect in like September. So the earliest that I think the industry would be able to get this is maybe like fourth quarter next year, if it's successful. There's that too. Yeah.
Hi, Howard Land, Remax Excalibur. I applaud you for everything you're doing. How can we possibly help you?
Oh, call your legislators. January 1st, their first day. Realtor Day at the Capitol. You guys do this. It's free. Realtor Day at the Capitol is free, and it is the best food that they will give you for free. It really is. It's not rubber chicken. They have a great caterer for that. And so what they do is they try to get they table you guys by your legislative districts, and then they get your representatives and hopefully senators out there to go break bread with you and talk about what's important. And so if you go to that like Realtor Day at the Capitol, say, you know, I'm a practicing realtor, small business owner. You guys are all independent contractors probably. So, right, like I'm small business owner, and these things that the Department of Real Estate is asking for are important to us. It's not, you know, we don't feel like they're being burdensome to us. We want these things to happen because the lawmakers don't want me to be government trying to impose more regulation. And that's how the people that are going to oppose this are going to say, that's what I'm doing. But every meeting I've gone to like this, I've yet to encounter a single realtor that says like, no, I wouldn't do those 2 steps if I could stop a criminal from stealing a piece of property. I've never met that realtor that says to me, I don't want to be part of the solution. How dare you ask me to do more? Like, that's just not who you guys are. And so I think it just comes from having been one of you for so long that I get you want to be part of the solution. You want to do whatever you can. So the legislative session will be really, really important because we're asking for the IT fund. We're asking for more staff. We're asking, you know, for the ability to do a better job. So.
We have one back here, Steve.
So it's real important for us to control a transaction, even in title. So a lot of times we list a home, we'll put, please use XYZ title. And we've been recently, I heard maybe it's a rumor that you're kind of cracking down on that.
Right. So you have a duty of disclosure. It's in R428-1101E4 is the administrative code. And it just says in writing, before a contract is entered, you need to disclose. But then there's RESPA, there's federal law out there that also has disclosure requirements, and it says at the point of influence, at the point that you're trying to influence someone to use a title company, you need to disclose. So if you're going to put anything into private remarks that's with regard to we love this title company the best, please upload your ABA disclosure into the documents tab to do that timely disclosure. And then as far as writing it into the contract, I gave this over to Arizona Realtors to look at yesterday to consider possibly a contract form revision, because I have some concerns of the CFPB. They're scary. Anyway, and they're active right now. The CFPB in 2014 issued out a consent order, and they fined a real estate brokerage a whole lot of money for delivering their ABA because of a joint venture. So they delivered that disclosure at the time that the contract was signed. So they used, you know, an electronic signature platform, and they sent out and they put, use this title and escrow company, right? But the title company was in there, and the disclosure was there because that's the point where we tried to influence you to go here for the title insurance as part of our offer, and you know we're meeting the federal law. And the CFPB came back and said, if you're just disclosing it at the time of the contract and you wrote that into the contract, you didn't give the parties an opportunity to shop. And so yesterday I forwarded that to Scott Drucker, and I said, really look at this. Maybe you need to change the form, and maybe we need to educate the industry to say just write the escrow company and then put other language into the contract about title insurance, because it's only the title insurance part that's so heavily regulated, which again goes back to people saying that, you know, the commissioner doesn't care about licensees. I mean, I'm not out there saying gotcha, bust ya. I'm out there working with your association professionals and your forms and saying this could be a problem for licensees. Like, let's work to fix it. Here's what they said. Why dance in the gray area? Like, go into the area of we're definitely clear.
Do you have some recommendations for like some of us that work with like probate or estate where we kind of open up escrow early to make sure we're not running into hiccups? Do you have some suggestions on how to address that?
Yeah, I mean, I did a lot of court appointed stuff and where it's like there are title companies, escrow officers that do a tremendous amount of work. And I guess the problem that you run into is it falls under RESPA 9C. So for me, I don't enforce RESPA. The Department of Insurance can, the State Attorney General can, and CFPB can. I would pick Barbara at the Department of Insurance. She's the nicest of those three. Anyway, if you stand a chance. But those are the three regulators, or agencies that licensees would have to be concerned with. In my world, I care about your fiduciary duties that you're delivering to your client. So if you're going to counter for title only, I strongly suggest that you have some kind of written communication that your client is asking for that and not you. And then if you are going to say it's a deal breaker as to whether or not you use this title company, then you should probably be prepared to pay for the buyer's policy, right? Because that's what the law requires.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So try this.
So
Okay.
regarding RESPA,
Hello.
so what I understand is that there are 3 exceptions to the RESPA rule. Bank-owned properties can choose their title company. Short sales, if you're doing a short sale. And if you have a preliminary title report with Schedule A and B, if we've done that, that's considered opening an escrow. And we put that preliminary title report in the documents tab. Do we have the right to control escrow at that point as a seller?
If you pay for the buyers, is my understanding, but again, not what I enforce, but in everything that I've read, it's the disclosure exception. And you have to remember there's RESPA, but then there's also state laws regarding all of that. And so this industry has been so heavily focused on looking at the federal laws that are out there that govern these types of activities. And they've completely forgotten to look in the real estate statutes, insurance statutes, and escrow statutes. And so there's additional disclosure requirements that have to be made. And, I guess at the end of the day, you have to decide, like, why are you requesting what you're requesting? Is it worth the risk to you, given all the regulation around that? For me, and what I regulate, I will be looking closely. Like if there's a counteroffer for title only, I'm going to want to see why that you didn't do that for your interest, that you did that for your client's interest, that you were loyal to your client before you or anyone else. And so, and if you meet those bars and if you disclose, so disclosure is required to all parties in Arizona prior to the contract being written. And so you can't always get the other side to sign an ABA because they're like, that's your in-house thing and I'm not going to sign it, whatever. You guys use electronic delivery and you can print off your certificate and show that you delivered it. And that's going to meet the letter of the law that's out there. So it's really, it doesn't work if you disclose it after the fact. That's not disclosure. You can't have contract date today and then tomorrow you deliver your ABA. That's more of an acknowledgement, right? Where was the opportunity to shop there? Like you have to think about what's the intent of these things. I can tell you Title Alliance is one of the good guys out there. I've worked with their big attorney. Yeah. We had a person who was violating my title in chapter. And I was able to work with the people at Title Alliance and they took care of it in-house way stronger than anything I would have done to the licensee. So, when you see a company out there whose integrity is so high that they have a zero tolerance for something, that's illegal, because that's what it is, right? I enforce laws. They self-police and they self-police in a way like nothing to see here anymore. We took care of that. Yeah. So, if that's, I saw that was one of your sponsors. Like I have no issue with that company.
Using a title company
using a title company that is quality, in my eyes, is for the client.
Mhm.
Like if we use a title company that we don't know, we don't know how that transaction is going to go.
Mhm.
So in essence, it's all for the client.
Informed consent, just document it, right?
Okay.
Right? I mean, I used to do buyer intake meetings and I would sit down with them and I would say, here's some testimonials about the home buying process. And I asked questions about how was your escrow experience and how was your experience with the title insurance? And did you, feel that they took good care of you? And I would put that together with hey, in my buyer intake, I would say, when you want to write an offer, I need a company to put on line 86, section 3A. I don't know. I used to have it memorized. It's kind of fading now. Now it's more statutes and rules. Anyway, but I think it's like line 86, maybe 85 of the purchase contract that you guys use. And I used to say, you need to make a decision. And while we're looking for houses, this is the time. And they would say to me, oh, Susan, whatever one you pick. And I'm like, I advise you decide. You're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. When you decide, you tell me, and I'm going to send you an email and say, thank you so much for getting back to me about what title insurance and escrow company you want to use because you took a look at it. And that's what I'm writing in the contract. And so I would deflect it with reviews of past clients and their success and how they felt. And that was a great tool for me to get marketing little blurbs anyway, because I would also ask them questions about me and my process and did you feel informed? Very leading questions because I wanted those statements for my marketing, right? So I would always do that like end of the thing survey. I would incorporate it into a pop by. Yeah, I did all kinds of things. So that's what I would say. If you're going to, really say like, okay, this is in my client's best interest, well, then explain to them why it's in their best interest and get instruction from them to do that.
Okay. And then one other follow-up on the title, when we get a prelim title, because I always do that on all my listings.
Mhm.
Just for clarity's sake, if it's not the title company, it's not Title Alliance that's with the company. And we have escrow already open with that title company. We cannot put that in MLS, that escrow is open. Not that we're trying to steer people, but just that it is escrow's opened and the prelim title is in documents.
I mean, if
Yes or
you
no?
don't have
And
a
we have it in
joint
writing.
venture, if there's no your family members, money coming from anything that's not the sale of the property coming to you, right? If there's
Yeah.
none of that happening and you just know that you love and trust this escrow officer and they open up a preliminary and you're going to say, we have a preliminary title report already from this escrow company. That's not requiring use, right?
Right.
Even saying like, we love this escrow company, but if you're going to say seller wants you to use it, then you better be able to back that up. Like get that in writing. If you're broker supervising, ask for that in writing. Hey, you put this in the MLS. You said the seller chose this. Show me that the seller chose this and not you, right? Like take that liability off of you. And then if you do have an affiliation or the brokerage does, then disclose it. Just put it into the document tab and make a note in there. ABA disclosure and doc tab, put it out there. I mean, guys, I practice real estate. They don't care. They really don't care. They trust you. You're their advisor. So be their advisor and get informed consent and button it up and dot your I's and cross your T's and take a breath, slow the process down and do it correctly. And you won't have any problems with me.
So if our broker does creates a disclosure form for us to use in this case, then that's what we can do. And we can note that.
Yeah. Just remember, the federal law is at time of influence. The state law is in writing to all parties before contract.
I will just remind you guys to please watch my broker blasts every Friday that come out because there have been several videos on this where we've discussed all of the same. You're hearing a mimic here of all the things I've been talking to you about for months and months. So please pay attention to those because last Friday there was a really good one that went out. So please pay attention.
Commissioner probably answered the question in general, but I have a client that forecloses on tax liens. And there's one title company that will actually insure title. And so I get stuck, and I've tried, because I love Title Alliance. I have tried to at least give people options, and I love Title Alliance. I know you're here. And that's my ABA. The other one is not. The title company that insures is not my ABA. So they're just a great company. But, you know, Title Alliance and their underwriter will only do it on a case-by-case basis, which messes with the seller. And the seller's like, yeah, I don't want to do that. So I think what you said was just get it in writing that I have to use that one company.
Just get it in writing. And honestly, if the seller says, I'll only use this company, then he's on the hook with RESPA 9C to pay for the buyer's policy. But if this is the only company that will issue it, then why not just send an email to the other side saying, thank you for your offer. I'm not sure if you've dealt with this type of real estate, but in my experience, this is the only company that insures it.
And I do that.
I don't have an affiliation with them. I'm just telling you, we get title insurance here on this type of thing. I mean, you know, I've always wondered why realtors don't talk to each other in like a kind, professional way more often.
No, I do that.
Right. No, I'm not saying you don't.
No,
I
know you
just
aren't.
see
I
the
do
worst
that.
of the worst these days. And I'm like, but if we would have just talked to each other, we probably wouldn't be here right now.
They just don't believe me.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, yeah. And I think that's just one of those things of like cost of doing business. You have to explain to the seller, you know, there are laws out there that govern this. And so if you are going to say, I love everything about your offer, but you have to use, then show them RESPA 9C and say, then if you're going to say that, you got to buy their buyer's policy, you know, because you want the comfort of not going through the bumpy escrow. Well, what's that worth to you?
So do you think in this situation, when there's a sole title company that will do it, that sellers required by CFPB to actually pay the buyer policy? Or does the
I don't know how you would prove that there's
stating,
no other,
I mean, arguably, and again, I love Title Alliance, and they've tried to do a workaround, and it's not even a workaround, but it's a case by case basis. And I don't know when they're going to get around to telling me if they're going to do it or not.
so again, it's not what I regulate, but you're messing with the CFPB at that portion. And so the safest thing is if they're going to counter for title only, right? They're going to say, no, unless you use this title company. And that's going to be the stance. Then they need to understand that part of their business model encompasses if it comes down to that. And if I can't convince the other side to do this, your choice is a bumpy escrow where we eventually get to this. And so no, it's not going to be 30 days. It's probably going to be 45, or pay for it. Pay for the convenience, right? Like you pay more at Carvana, but it's convenient. I don't know if you pay more at Carvana. Just saying, you know, like people spend money on different things. You just have to have a real open, honest thing and say, look, I'm protecting you from breaking a federal law. You're doing your job, and you inform and they decide. And then you document the heck out of that. Send Nate a copy. He'd like it in his file. Right? Like we want that stuff in broker files. So, but yeah, it's risky. And the CFPB has been very active lately with regard to RESPA.
So we have a addendum, right? A disclosure. And some of our agents don't want to sign it, even though our brokerage has ABAs, right? So can you talk to our agents that don't want to sign that disclosure because they don't use any of those companies?
If it's in writing and you have proof that you delivered it to the agent and then the agent doesn't use it, then what would happen in an investigation is I would say the brokerage is good. They did what they were supposed to do. I have an issue with the licensee in the disclosure, right? Because there's that ability to shop for title insurance. And if there's any kind of affiliation, I'll tell you, I mean, there's other brokerages out there and I see their ABA in every file that I look at, and it's never the company that's used. And they require it 100% of the time of every one of their licensees because they don't want the risk of something slipping through the cracks. And so At the end of the day, you know, like at the end of the day, stop being so selfish. You know, have these conversations. The time for real estate licensees to start, you know, having the conversations with the clients and not just making the decisions that you think are best for them is here. You got to do it. You got to have those conversations. You got to talk about how you get paid. I mean, that's outside of my wheelhouse right now, but there's a lot of things happening in your industry right now, and you all deserve to get paid. So get comfortable with that, unless you're like charity real estate and you don't care about getting paid, but I haven't met that agent yet. So, you know, get comfortable that you guys bring a lot of value to the transaction. Yeah. Yeah.
Any other questions? Our disclosure form?
All right. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you letting me come out and chat
Thank
with you.
you.
All right, so that was a lot of great discussion. Thank you, Commissioner. We appreciate you.
First of all, Mike, before you get going, I want to let you know my favorite color is blue, and almost everybody that had blue in here asked a question. So,
Oh, there you go. Alrighty, so we had some good discussion there. You know, some of that typically are mastermind time, but we do still have the room. So if anyone wants to stick around, get into anything that you want to talk about, any challenges you're having, things you want to do better, etc., come on up towards the front here, and we'll continue that discussion as well. Otherwise, have a great day, y'all. Thanks.